for MMA Power Hour on Fight TV with the California Kid, Urijah Faber. Can't wait to see this fight. How are you feeling, my friend?
Feel great right now. You know, I've got one last push on the weight cut to get to tomorrow morning, but as far as my body goes, I'm feeling great, and mentality, I'm feeling great.
A 40-year-old bantamweight is not something you hear very often, so you're kind of setting a precedent here. How does it feel?
It feels great. And, you know, when I started in this sport, there was no weight class for me, so we probably would have seen more 40-year-olds, you know, if it was the time of Randy Couture and Dan Henderson and Tito Ortiz and Chuck Liddell. When I first started in the sport, that's who I was training with. You know, those guys. I actually trained with most of those guys at some point, and they were the older, more experienced fighters, and it was just, you know, that's how it was. But we didn't even get into the UFC until 2011, I think. And before that was the WEC. So I'm setting a new precedent. It's good health is true wealth. I got to thank my parents on that one. Teaching the right lifestyle and believing in myself.
Absolutely. I remember back in the WEC days with the blue floor or canvas. How hard was it to not fight on blue at that point when you switched to the UFC? Did it make a difference?
No, it wasn't hard at all. A lot of people don't know that they were always owned by the UFC anyways, and so I was constantly pushing them to merge the two anyways, because we weren't getting the clout like we should have. It was, you know, we were the best organization in the world, but and I loved my time at the WEC, but it was under the UFC umbrella, and having the merge was kind of nice. And it's crazy that it's been so long now. It seems like yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember when Joe Rogan was calling out your name when people didn't know who you were on UFC broadcasts, so I think he was always a big supporter. How does this fight feel in preparation for a big matchup like this as compared to when you were younger, and where does this rank as far as importance in the fights that you've had in your great career?
You know, I always take every fight as ultimate, you know, importance, especially because your body and your mind and your physical health is on the line. Like, people forget that piece of this. Like, we're just, you know, indestructible fighters that are going to go have, you know, a win or draw match. This is life or death type of situation a lot of times. And so, you know, I always think of that first, and then I make sure that I have fun in the process and showcase what I'm all about. So, you know, this stacks, you know, of utmost importance.
You're the underdog in this matchup. Does that give you any extra motivation?
I mean, I could care less about what people think. I mean, I've never looked at rankings or betting odds or anything like that. It's just, you know, I would say, based on the fact that I've been out 3 years, I've only fought 46 seconds in the last 4 years in an actual bout, that I'd make me an underdog, but that doesn't mean anything to me.
Do you think your opponent, being a younger fighter, might somehow be overlooking you at all with all the hype and all the talk around him that he's the favorite and he's the big young gun coming out there? Do you think that could be something that's in his head?
I don't think so. He seems like a seasoned competitor. I don't think that he's necessarily a guy that is, you know, going to do something dumb. I think if he's going to do anything dumb, he was going to do it anyways. He's kind of a bold fighter, so he comes charging, and you've seen it get him in trouble once or twice, and you've seen it work for him a lot.
Can you compare him to any of your previous opponents?
I'd say Michael McDonald's a good comparison. You know, Michael McDonald, knockout power. I would say, you know, in the UFC, even more decorated with who he was able to take out. Also well-rounded. I'd say Jan is probably a little bigger, maybe a little more finesse on the all-around game, but I would say that's a, you know, one guy that you know, you can kind of compare him to.
Absolutely. If you win this fight, I know you mentioned you may or may not continue. It seems so hard for people to leave on a win. They say that if you win, you say, well, then maybe I can win the next one. Maybe I can win the next one. Maybe I can win the title. Is there a chance that off of a really good performance, you might be able to say, you know what, I want to leave on the top. I want to be that guy that can actually leave before things start going really sour?
You know, I left on a win. I left, if you want to say on top, but I wasn't really on top. I left because I felt like it. I have the ability to sit out and not come back unless they give me something that I'm excited about. And so that'll probably be the deciding factor. I don't have a problem leaving on a high or a low or anything. It doesn't define me.
How much has coaching and training other fighters helped your fight IQ and just overall your fight game?
You know, I've been coaching alongside and mentoring alongside fighting my entire career, so it's always been good. I've been a wrestling coach at UC Davis, and done camps to make money when I was struggling back as a fighter. So I know about teaching, and you retain 90% of what you teach. And what I've really been doing is being there to mentor the guys, but I've got a whole coaching staff that is amazing. Chris Holdsworth and Danny Castillo and Mike Malott and Joey Rodriguez and Fabio Prado, and the list goes on of all these guys that are doing, honestly, most of the coaching where I'm at. Even when I was retired, I'd coach maybe one practice a week and work with guys individually. But my coaching staff back home is really top-notch. We've got Lee Kemp, one of the most successful wrestlers of all time, and Slava Borshev's a kickboxing world champion. And so for me, it's always nice to give back, and I take a lot from being in practice, but I've got a lot of guys that are helping coach as well.
Any hot prospects coming out of Team Alpha Male we should know about?
We've got Alex Munoz, Cleo Romero. Those are two guys in particular that you're going to see. Chris Gonzalez is another one. I think Corey McKenna out of the UK, that she's one of these soft-spoken young girls that just is all about mixed martial arts and focus. So Tofik also, and Vugar from Azerbaijan. Tofik's about to fight in the Risen World Championship. He's going to fight 2 fights in a night on the 29th in Risen, and I'd like to see him over in the UFC eventually.
Absolutely. What advice could you give an up-and-coming fighter from a man in your position who's had so much experience and has seen so much and is just really probably one of the best lightweight fighters of our time? What can you tell someone who's just starting their career that would help them in getting to where you've gotten?
Know that it's a long journey, and you have to be willing to go through the ups and downs. It's putting yourself in the best place possible to improve, but doing the things that are going to help you build the confidence, because the mental game, thinking big, how big are you thinking, what you believe you can accomplish is the most important thing, but you only earn that by really, really hard work and doing the right thing. So get with a good camp and work your butt off.
Wise words from an experienced and wise man. Thank you so much, Urijah Faber. Go do what you do. Look forward to seeing it.
My pleasure.
Colin Crandall, MMA Power Hour on Fight TV. That was the California Kid. Watch his fights. He never disappoints.